Hi, this is Ed Troxel, and in today's tutorial we're going to learn how to add tracks to the timeline. You have to be careful when adding tracks because you have to differentiate between video tracks and audio tracks, and you have to figure out where you want them to be, and depending on how you add the tracks you may not be able to specify much information. So we're going to look at some various methods so that we can get them added correctly. Let's take a look at our timeline here in Premiere. I have started a new sequence and I have deleted everything except for the V1 and A1. Premiere really does want you to have at least one video and one audio track in the sequence at all times, so I just don't try to take it down below that, but we can use the script to add more tracks to the timeline in the sequence. So let's take a look at the code. First of all, to add a new track, you do have to be on the QE side, just like a lot of the other things we have been doing lately. First of all, we have to enable the QE, and then we have to get the QE sequence. Now, if you do a search on the internet to ask basically how do you add a track, you're going to get a response that looks similar to this right here. So you'll have add tracks 0. This will add one audio track and 0 video tracks. If we have add tracks 2, this would add one audio track and 2 video tracks. This line add tracks 8, this would add one audio track and 8 video tracks. So you can see we have something kind of common going on here. Every time we add, it's going to add one audio, and then it will add however many you specify here, video tracks. So let's take a look at, we'll just try it with the 2. So let's comment out these other 2 and let's try it with the add tracks 2. Okay, it says the script has been completed. If we come back over here, we will now see that we do have 2 audio tracks and we have 2 new video tracks as well. So it added the one audio track, which it said it would do, and it added 2 new video tracks as well. So now let's delete these. So now back to looking at this code, we can see that it always adds one audio track and then it adds however many video tracks that we specify. But what happens if we really didn't want to add an audio track? Perhaps we wanted to add 2 video tracks and did not want any audio tracks added. So we need to be able to specify exactly how many of what kind of track is being added. Fortunately, we have some help here. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And let's look at all the information that is actually available to call when you call add tracks. In add tracks, the first number available is your number of video tracks. That is the number we were specifying. But now we have all of these other options available to us as well. So let's take a look at some of these. The next one is your video index. This is going to specify where that video track is added. Then we have the number of audio tracks that we're going to add. Then we have the type of the audio track it's going to be, whether it's going to be mono or stereo, and then we have where that one is going to be placed. And then finally we have some other ones back here that I'm going to just ignore for now. Just know that you also have the number of sub-audio tracks, the type, and where that is going to be placed as well. We're going to look at these first 5 parameters here. So let's take a look at some code that lets us specify what type of track is being added and where that track is being placed. First of all, let's go back to Premiere and take a quick look. When we have our tracks here, you know, so we have V1 here, then above that would be V2, then V3. Well, V1 is always index number 0. V2 would be index number 1. V3 would be index number 2, and so forth. So the index numbers start here in the middle and work their way upwards for the video tracks. For the audio tracks, it's exactly the opposite. A1 is index 0, but the next track down will be A2, which will be index number 1. So all of the indexes, the two middle tracks are index 0, and then as you go outward, the indexes go up. So if I wanted to add a V2 just above this V1, then I would use index number 1. If I want V1 to be moved up and want to add a track below V1, then I would use index number 0. So let's take a quick look at how we can code that. Here's a couple of quick lines of code that will let you specify whether you want to add a video track or an audio track. This will add either one video track or one audio track, and then we can specify the position of that video or audio track. So this first line here will add a video track, which is this number 1 right here. It will add it in this location, which I've put this in a subroutine so that I could pass it a different position depending on where I wanted it to be. And then this is the number of audio tracks. I don't want any audio tracks at this point. This would be the type of audio track, and then this would be the index of the audio track. So now let's look at the adding an audio track. In this case, I want to add 0 video tracks. Location does not matter. Then I want to add 1 audio track. I want it of type 1 stereo. And then this is the position I want that audio track placed. So I'm going to copy these two lines, and then let's just comment out these two. And I only did that so I could keep my pause A and pause V visible, so that if I want to do it again, I will know where the position is. So first I want to do is add a new video track in the index 1 position. So that will be just above the V1. And then let's do the same thing here. We'll add a new audio track in the index 1 position, which will be just below the A1. So let's try running this and see what happens. Now we come back over here, and we do have a V2, and we do have an A2, and they were added directly above the V1 and below the A1. Now let's run a quick test and change this position to 0. And then we're also going to change this position to 0. I left this up here so that I remember that the second one is pause V, so this is pause V. Likewise, this is pause A. Now this one should add a new track below the V1 and above the A1. So let's see what happens when we run this. Now this one did add the new video track right here. The new one is right here. Notice the V1 was checked before, and it is still checked, but it is now V2. And then the new track here added was A1. It was added above the A2 and the A3, so we can specify exactly where on the timeline these tracks get added. As you can see, adding new tracks to the timeline is not that difficult. You just have to make sure you specify the proper information and verify they're going exactly where you want them to go. Please sign up at www.jettv.com and subscribe on YouTube to get further notifications on when new videos are presented.